Hi, everyone. I'm Super Julie Braun, and I'm founder and CEO of superinterns.com. And today's show is the benefits of equality and diversity in the workplace. And I'm always curious when our audience is here listening in, I'm always curious to know who here wants to know what the benefits are from a business perspective. And if you are a career seeker, do you want to know why you would want to work for a very diverse company? So just type in yes if that's something you're interested in. And if you need virtual interns, or if you need help with your career, or if you need a virtual internship, you can go to, we're going to put up the link, superinterns.com, and click on services, and we'll be able to help you. Everybody, we have props. And if you don't know what the props are, Robert, you know what the props are. You can give both me and Tanya some props. Thank you very much. That felt good. I'm going to give some to Tanya. They're the little hands. So Tanya, go ahead. Just click on it. Give us props. Let us know that you know how it works.
I'm not sure I do.
Well, you just click right on it. And although mine sometimes work and they don't, I think Blab may be a little wonky today. We can also share on Twitter and Facebook. Over on the left-hand side of your screen, there's a place that says share the last 30 seconds. And you can click on that and share us actually talking with your audience of friends. So everybody, let's go ahead and get started. I am really thrilled that we have my two co-hosts. We've got Tanya Kinlow, who is the finance executive, product management, technology, and project manager for GE Lighting. That is a huge title.
It's a lot, yeah.
You have. And then we have Robert Geller, who is the chief adventure officer of Outings and Adventures. And so, Tanya, why don't you go ahead and get started and just tell us a little bit about like where are you calling from, and what do you do at GE Lighting? And why are you here today? I think people will want to know that.
Okay, so I live here in Cleveland, Ohio, working for GE Lighting. And we just broke off a new division that's called Current, powered by GE. So like electrical current. So actually I now work for that division, but everyone knows lighting. So we're trying to make that transition into Current, powered by GE. And I am the finance leader, so our engineering and technology divisions, and we're selling sort of projects, not just lamps and light bulbs. I'm the finance leader that helps us keep our budget and manage all of our financials. So I've been here about a couple of years, but I've been with GE about 5 years, and GE is a huge company. It's like Fortune 8. And certainly we believe in diversity and inclusion. And since all of my career, I've been a lot of places in the last 20-something years. I've always participated in recruiting and diversity, and that's no different than currently. So right now I'm on the Diversity Council for Lighting, and I lead the People with Disabilities Network. So it's one of the affinity groups that we have we have AAF and the Women's Network. I'm a part of all of those. We have a Veterans Network and GLBTA. So we have a lot of affinity groups. I lead one, the Disability Network, and I participate in a couple of others. So I am a huge advocate for diversity, and I have been in every company that I've worked for.
We are so lucky to have you, Tanya. Thank you so much. And then we've got Robert. And Robert, right now you're below me. I don't know if you know this on the screen. Is that right?
Wait, I see you up above.
I'm going to look down at you. We are like the Brady Bunch. Now I'm going to, okay, now I'll turn to Tanya. Although actually, I just turned away from you, Tanya, on my screen. So, but I saw you go that, well, yeah, so now go this way so that you're on my screen. There you go. Okay, so now that just worked in my land. Anyway, Lab is still in their beta, so I don't think they've quite figured out that piece of it. But Robert, you are up next. Please tell us, where are you calling from, and tell us about your business and why are you here today?
Okay. Robert Geller, Chief Adventure Officer of Outings and Adventures. My title is not quite as large as yours, Tanya. I'm coming to you from Capitol Hill in Seattle, Washington. My company is a a travel company. It originally started as a social alternative for the LGBT community. It was morphed into a travel company targeting the gay male consumer. And then most recently, over the last 6 months, with the help of my super interns team, we've been taking the company and turning it into a portal, a travel portal targeting the gay and LGBT traveler, and at the same time bringing together tour operators, hotels, accommodations, and other businesses related to the travel industry that want to have a voice to this particular market, which this market is a $70 billion a year market, the LGBT travel market. So that is substantial. Well, I'm here as a part of your hosting team. My company, we thrive on diversity. We are gay owned. We target a gay and lesbian audience. We seek out travel partners and companies to partner with that want to have a voice in this marketplace. We seek out brands that welcome and have diversity programs in place. Just for instance, just rather quickly, here in Seattle, we're working with a company called Uncruise Adventures, and they welcome diversity at every level within their company. So it's working with like-minded companies that welcome diversity and see the benefit and benefit not just being the bottom line dollars, but benefit when you take a step back and realize that our companies need to mirror society, and society is diverse, and our companies need to reflect that as well.
That is so excellent. Thank you, Robert, for that explanation. So let's just jump right into the topic, and I want to set the stage because I think sometimes when we get on this topic, there's a lot of people that get kind of nervous. And yeah, you're looking over at me now, Tanya. She didn't realize, but
it is the opposite on my screen.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, that was perfect, actually, because you kind of looked at me like, mm-hmm. People get nervous around talking about diversity, and they get nervous about talking about equality. And I just want to set the stage that this is a safe place for you to ask questions. Of course, just be respectful. If you don't know something, it's okay to just ask the question, and we will do our best to answer it. We want you to be curious, and we want you to ask us about race, age, gender, religious or political affiliation. Sexual orientation, that's another part of diversity. People who have psychiatric disorders, like bipolar, or people who may have had a neurological challenge, like a traumatic brain injury, or for people who use a wheelchair, or for someone who's blind or deaf. We want to talk about it. And, it all can become very intimidating, because I, for one, don't want to offend anyone. And out of my own ignorance sometimes, or my own bias, or my own, perhaps not understanding, I might say the wrong thing. But I want to set the environment that this is a safe place. And as long as you're respectful, we will definitely answer your questions. So let's go ahead and get schooled tonight. So what does equality mean? Well, I'm not smart enough to really know, so I had to look it up. And equality is the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities. And that seems pretty simple, but we see over and over again that it isn't. I was binge watching Undercover Boss not too long ago. It's a show where the boss of the company goes undercover. They go into the actual locations. And if you haven't seen the show before, it's quite entertaining. But it usually starts off in a boardroom where the boss is telling his leadership team that he or she is going to go out into the field and experience being a worker without anyone else knowing. And I noticed after watching a few episodes that the tone of the boardroom was pretty much the same. There were a lot of Caucasian men. Occasionally, you would see a woman in there. Maybe you would see someone of color. You might see a different, someone who, maybe looked Asian or, had a different race. But for the most part, it was Caucasian men. And this kind of led me to my first question, which is, Tanya, why is equality and diversity so elusive in most workplaces? Because we all want that diversity, but then we see it on television all the time. I mean, it was proved to me that particular day when I was watching those shows that, most of the boardrooms are still run by Caucasian men.
Yeah, that's so true. And I see it where I am. I mean, I think it's one thing to want to have diversity, and it's another thing to actually do something about it and go out and proactively do something. And that's where the gap is. A lot of companies, we want it, we talk about it, we recruit well to make sure that we're legally compliant, or we're covering ourselves. And so you might see a decent amount of diversity in the companies or in companies. What you don't see is, as you need to climb the ladder and get to higher levels, when it comes to promoting those people. That's why you're not seeing them in the boardroom. I think people tend to look at people, they want to be around people that look like them or people who are the same. So it's that comfort area. And the other thing I think is that, so you recruit all these people in at entry level or different, but then you don't promote them, or they hit a glass ceiling, or they're not feeling included. So really you have the diversity, but the real key is to get the inclusiveness. So, you get people there. If they don't feel included, then they leave. And so you have a retention problem. So, and I can tell you again, of all these years that I've been recruiting and going out and trying to promote diversity, there's a huge turnover. And even, and certainly I've experienced it, when you get to a certain level, it just seems hard to get past it, because again, you're competing with people, or the people who are making decisions. They just tend to, consciously or not, want to veer towards people that look like them. And I'll say consciously or not, because I often just don't even think it's a conscious bias. Like, I don't want to pick that person. It is, but it does need to be conscious to say, I know that this is a competitive advantage. If I get people who think differently, who look differently, who give me different thoughts, then I can come up with better solutions. It takes a good leader to know that and promote that and make sure that the people that they hire have different characteristics and don't look like them. If I could talk to myself all day long and get the same answer, right? I want to get different answers, right? And of course, it's going to be right all the time. So I need
because you agree with yourself, right?
I agree with myself. I'm like, that's a great idea. But, I need to talk to other people.
And you're the smartest person in the room, too.
In the room, right?
Tanya, did you know that?
In the boardroom. Yeah, exactly. I always, know more than the next person. So it really takes people to get it and say, hey, you've been different places. And I think that's what I've brought. I've worked at a lot of different companies. And I think that's part of what I've brought, is that I can bring the perspective of other companies. So sometimes I think companies like that, more than necessarily saying, oh, let me get a woman's view, or let me get an African-American's view. And you talk about being the only person in the room. Even today, like every day, I'm either the only Black or the only woman, or certainly the only Black woman in the room.
Wow.
So
well, you're like what is that? The double threat?
Yeah.
That's the triple
threat. And I shouldn't be a threat. That should be more creativity.
Well, it's meant in a complimentary way, So, and Robert, what about you?
Well, also, right there, Tanya, what you're saying, what an incredible, I can't imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes, to be in that environment, to be the only person of color, to be the only woman, to be the only woman of color in that room. I mean, wow, to be in your shoes. I can't imagine what the thought processes or what's going through your mind. I mean, perhaps, and I don't mean to go off script, but what is going through your mind? When you're in those settings, I mean, evidently you belong there. You've gotten yourself there. I mean, what an accomplishment. What's going through your head when you're going to these meetings and you are that single person standing out there?
You know, it's really interesting. Early in my career, so I think this might be helpful for the super interns. Early in my career, it was intimidating, and it was, oh, you know, let me make sure I act and sit and do things a certain way. Let me try to look like them. And even when I started, you almost wanted to dress like a guy. You know, you wanted to wear either the starch shirts, or you wanted to wear the blazers, or, you know, we were trying to assimilate.
I remember shoulder pad.
Yes, and the little bow ties. You know,
Oh,
the little
my goodness.
thingy. Yes.
The hideous matchy.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, thankfully, times are a little different, and, you know, even how we dress at work is a little bit more casual, but still there's that piece of, you know, I'm a bit of an outsider. Everyone sees me. I'm different than everyone else in the room. So I need to present myself a certain way. I think now it just helps. I've been around a long time. I'm a little at a higher level, so I can just be a little bit more comfortable. A lot of times now the people in the room, you know, I'm one of the higher ones in the room, so I can be a little bit more comfortable, but I still need to, they don't get all of my colloquialisms, you know, they don't get everything. So I have to bring them in and help and make that environment better. But thanks for asking, because it's even, I mean, like today, all the time. And sometimes I notice it now and sometimes I don't, because it's so commonplace. I expect it. If I go in a room and there's more diversity in there than half, I'm almost surprised.
Wow. Well, you know, what Tanya had said earlier, and that is, I don't feel that it's a conscious decision on higher ups that they're consciously not making an environment diverse. I think what Tanya said earlier, that I think we whether it's humans or a society, we tend to go and look at our own. We see ourselves. And if you look at, you know, the different areas of cities, you know, the Chinatown or the Italian section, there's something about, there's a comfort level that's always been there about, looking and seeing yourself and others. And that it really does take a leader to look beyond that and realize, hey, we need to consciously think outside of that thinking that so many get caught up in. And for my company, we're small, so everyone is represented. So when you come to the table, there's not many people at that table. So we're everyone, when they come to the table, they're representing whether it be another color, another gender, whatever that is that brings that diversity to the team, as it does with our interns. I just yesterday, I found out that one of my interns had shared with me that her brother's partner. So it's just kind of basically in the little conversation was just telling me, like, oh, I'm accepting. I actually sought out. She actually sought out the internship with my company. Being with an LGBT company was something that she was comfortable with. It was something that was a part of her life. The fact that she was close with her brother and her brother's partner. So she actually sought out the internship with our company, knowing that we targeted the LGBT community. So it's kind of interesting how I've seen that with our intern team.
Robert, you mentioned something earlier about not knowing what it's like to step into someone else's shoes, like Tanya's shoes. And I thought it would be really good. It's kind of a good segue to our next topic, which is kind of to relate a personal story. Because, Robert, I can't imagine what it's like to be a gay man or a gay kid and having to kind of navigate through, high school or any of the other things that, your first job and all of that kind of thing. Now you own a company and you really, you own that space of LGBTQ community. And so, you're really in your comfort zone. But, there were some things that led to that point. So, I'd love to hear from both of you. What are your personal stories when it comes to maybe not having a great experience with diversity or equality, or what happened in your lives that made you aware, like, oh my gosh, there's a different way of looking at this. And now that you are of an age and wisdom, and God bless America for both of you doing what you're doing, you're really kind of embracing and teaching people through your actions. So, Robert, why don't you jump in with a story? What happened to you, or what's your story that you can relate to this?
Well, actually, I'm going to share with you a very recent story, and the example once again is that I'm Cruise Adventures, based here in Seattle. I was meeting with the director of sales. We're working on a proposal to work together, and I'm sitting across from her at her desk. She is a woman of color, and we're having a discussion about diversity. We're having a discussion about the LGBT traveler, what their expectations are, and some of the things that they encounter. And so here I am sitting across the table from a woman of color, and I'm sharing with her what it's like to be an outsider, or someone in the position where they're not the majority, and so I'm telling her that what's important to our travelers is to feel safe. And so we're having this discussion, and I felt like after she's like, I felt like she was sitting there like, hello, I'm of color, I know what it's like. And it was funny. We actually laughed afterwards, because I was talking to someone that she knew exactly what I was talking about. I mean, we're in the same shoes. We were minorities, but mine was being gay, hers a woman of color, and basically kind of like having a conversation. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it was just really interesting that we were having this discussion, and I felt like I had to explain to her where we're coming from, the safety, what it was like to be a minority, and then like, hello, look across over here. You see my skin color? It's not like yours. And it's just really, it was hysterical. It was really funny. Here I am trying to tell someone what it's like to be a minority.
Wow,
so
that's a good one.
That was just recently, as opposed to. I can share all the stories where I went into a situation where I was nervous. Would I be found out that I was gay, and what would happen? And there are places in this country, and there are states that don't protect LGBT members of the LGBT community from employment practices. So there were all of those stories where my girlfriend's name was Vanessa. It was Vinny. Vinny was masked as Vanessa in stories. So there's plenty of those, but it's just kind of fun here. Just very recently, you're talking to a woman of color, trying to explain to her what it's like to be a minority.
Tanya, what about you?
I just, when you asked the question, so many things went through my head. I can tell you the earliest time I remember even finding out what race was and maybe some biases. I was like in the first grade. And I lived in a sort of a blended neighborhood, and I played with the girl down the street who was white, and most of my school was black. Mm-hmm. But she went to this school. And so when we walked to school together, and some of my classmates, almost like a little bit of a bully, was messing with us. And then he was like, you're hanging out with this white girl. And I'm like, so what? My mom's white, my sister's white, my brother's white, my dad's black and my brother's black. But I didn't know the difference between complexions. See, my whole family's black, but I thought light skin, dark skin. I didn't know. I didn't get it, and it was, that was when it was like, I came home and was telling my mom, and my family thought it was sort of funny. And I don't even remember what they told me then, but that was my first, because I just thought it was just shades of between white and black. I never, got that. So since then, there's been a million things that have come up. I can tell you most recently, though, just with how I've gotten into more so advocating with people with disabilities, is my son is in a wheelchair and has been in a car accident, Evan. And when he was 16, I was like, wow, now you're a black man who's disabled. And that brings about a whole new world. Like, so I'm a Black woman. Now I got the double and he's got the triple, and so you take that and you look at what's going on, getting a job, how people look at you, or people think maybe because you're in a wheelchair, you have mental issues when you don't necessarily. So there's these preconceptions that people have. So I've been just really in my network that I've started at work. Like, this is the year of employability. People with disabilities have the highest rate of unemployment. They are the highest unemployed minority in the world. And it's the most common minority because it crosses all races, sexes, everything. So it's been very interesting. And I met with our county board recently here to say, how can we get more people? How can I hire someone this year? I want us to start hiring and be more thoughtful, and because this is another area of diversity that no one's paying attention to and we're missing out on. And even then, getting my HR reps involved, it's like making sure, what kind of degree they have. These are normal questions, the degree and everything. But, what kind of special accommodations are we making for people who need it? Not that, it's going to cost a gazillion dollars. But just make sure you're compliant with the code. Make sure you got ramps. If they need a special computer for vision or whatever, let's do that.
Right.
So it's spanned the spectrum.
Well, I, like both of you, have a million stories too, but the one that bubbled up for me was when I was 8 years old. So I'm a slower learner than you are, Tanya, because mine was with my friend Sean Brown, who lived in the cul-de-sac down the street from me. And she had, beautiful dark skin, and I loved to play with her hair. That's one of the things that we would do, because I would always be like, can I braid it? And I would have so much fun getting my hands in her hair and just playing with it. And one day, Sean and I got into a huge argument over what I don't even remember. But it was something really stupid. And I'm standing in the middle of the street, and we're like, face to face. And she's quite a bit taller than me and bigger than me. And she could have taken me out. Not a problem. But I said to her, you know what? I'm going to call you a name that my mother always said that I should never use.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine? And she just looked at me and she goes, go ahead. My mom told me about people like you. And I go, okay, well, you're stupid. And she looked at me and she goes, what? And I go, dummy, stupid head. She's like, no way. She obviously was expecting a whole nother word.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment when I looked at her and I said, what were you thinking I was going to say? And she told me the word. And I was dumbfounded. I didn't know how to take it. I immediately felt horrible. But then she started laughing. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, you're more stupid than I am.
Right. Kids are resilient. If we could keep the way kids could just, play and come together, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So it was my first glimpse into a moment where that's what the conversation was going towards. And anyway, it kind of shaped and molded the way that I continue to think that, we're all more similar than we are different. So let's jump into the next part of our show here. We wanted to talk about the benefits of diversity. And by the way, if you just joined us, I'm Super Julie Braun, and I'm here with my two fantastic co-hosts. We've got Robert Geller, and we also have Tanya Kinlow, and we're talking about diversity and equality. So there's quite a different points of view that happen with diversity. And when we think about it, when you create a culture of different people, of different colors and perspectives and, affiliations and religious backgrounds and all those kinds of things, you're going to really provide a larger pool of ideas and experiences. And so I'm wondering, Robert, what bubbles up for you when you think about the benefits of having a diverse company? What are some of the benefits?
Well, sure, you touched on it, and that is bringing those different perspectives. I always, one of the things that my company benefits from with our interns is that we're seeing the different perspectives that they're bringing to the table, whether it be with their ages or that they're in school or their life experiences. I mean, they're all bringing to the table all different experiences. And so, for us companies, we want, if we're trying to talk to an audience, we want to have behind us and within our team all those different experiences, because each of us are bringing to the table whatever you want to call it, experiences, you want to call it baggage, whatever we're bringing with us, we bring it all with us, and so it's going to vary. So having that brings new ideas. It's great for brainstorming sessions. You're going to have thoughts that would not have been exposed to. So that's probably the biggest piece that I see is bringing all those different experiences that we won't, as individuals, haven't had, that have not been in those shoes, have not experienced ourselves. So it's bringing all that information and great stuff that is beyond our single scope.
And Tanya, what about you? When you think about already work for a diverse company, or they're always trying and striving towards that, what have you witnessed as being some of the benefits that maybe more middle of the road, just very narrowly having the same kind of people working for you or with you would have?
Yeah, I think I just want to echo what Robert said. It's pretty much the same. It's getting that creativity and different thoughts in the room. And I think, again, no matter how big the company is, sometimes I think it's harder the bigger you are, because it's easier to be overlooked versus when you're small. You can be really intentional, like you said, have every person at the table represent a different piece of diversity. I think what I've seen work are affinity groups work well. I think mentors and mentees, and I just think being really intentional around diversity is what works best. And what I've seen lately, because I think people take advantage of, you bring more women in the room. Okay, that's sort of happening. Maybe different ethnicities, but I don't think we're touching people with disabilities. I also think that global, I think international people from different areas, it is really helping diversity. So I think us being global is helping a lot. I think that's where you get even more of a bigger bang, because it's so obvious. They're from different cultures, maybe have different ways of seeing things, different accents, different way of finding humor and talking about things. So I think that's where I'm seeing right now most of the benefit coming through. Like, you can really be creative. It's like, wow, you're coming from another part of the world. Never even heard of that. This is really getting me thinking creatively. So.
Right. And actually, Caroline is putting up a link right now, which is the 9 business advantages of diversity in the workplace. It's a really good, for those that are going to listen to the replay, it's on ethnoconnect.com, and it's called 9 Business Advantages of Diversity in the Workplace. So check that out, because I think that's pretty powerful. Let's go on now and start talking about how career seekers can find a diverse company. Because I think, if I'm looking for a job, one of the things that's going to be important to me is I want to find a company that's environmentally correct. That's just part of who I am. So I'm always gravitating towards green companies or companies that have a green initiative. And I want to go work for a company that has diversity, that has different faces in the room, different perspectives, and those sort of things. So one of my favorite, which I discovered just recently, one of my favorite companies is Build-A-Bear. And I've always loved Build-A-Bear. I think that they're geniuses, and I don't even like teddy bears, but I love that company. I think they have created such a experiential, business. I want to go in there. I want to pick out my stuffed animal. I want to stuff it, kind of make him firm maybe. And then maybe I want him squishy. I want to give him a voice, and I already call him a him. So I guess I'm already thinking, what gender he is. But I love that store. And when I was doing a little more research, and Maxine Clark, by the way, who's the founder of that company, I just think she is an absolute genius. She, started off as a buyer, and then she got she was thinking about doing a deal with a teddy bear company, and she took her idea to start Build-A-Bear. And I just think, one of the things that she's done in her company is she's created this amazing diverse culture where every different group of people that you could imagine is in her company. So when you guys think of your favorite company that celebrates diversity, what comes to mind? Tanya, what about you? Is there anybody that bubbles up for you right now?
I think in this day and age, I think a lot about all of these startups, and I think maybe it's because they're young and they're new, and it's just more inclusive. Like Facebook, I mean, all of these, they're just bringing everyone in, anyone who has an idea and creative. And I just think that is the epitome. Different work styles, different ways of how the office looks, how you come in. I think that they take diversity to another level in how you can come to work every day, or work remotely, or have sleep pods and massages. I want that, So.
You had me at sleep pod.
I mean, that is like very creative thinking, and so they're just going for total diversity. So that's what I think about when I'm sort of looking at. That really stretches the imagination, and I think that's an ideal company. And I think I go online when I'm look at different companies, and I think it helps to also look who's at the top, like you said, look who's leading, because those people will help hire. And if you see a diverse management team, then maybe you're going to see a more diverse company that's considering, and working mothers and families and just all different types of people. So
that is such a great tip that you just gave to career seekers. That's like the $1 million tip. So if you're interested in the company, go look at the About Us.
Yes.
And look at the leaders of that company. Look at the board of directors. Look at who's on the team. And that will be a very clear indication straight away. You'll get a sense of, yes, they're a diverse company, or no, they're not. Now, there may be some things that you're not going to see. You will not see psychological disorders. Like I have dyslexia. So you wouldn't know that I have dyslexia unless I told you, or you gave me something that had an area code. Then it would become very, very obvious that I'm dyslexic. I will always transpose numbers. I make light of it. I make a joke out of it because that's where I am now in my journey with it. But, there were many, many, many years that I didn't know what was going on with me and why I was reversing letters. And, I was just really bad in school and, all of those things. So that won't be as obvious, but the other things will be obvious. And usually when you see that, then you know that they're going to have a diverse group of people. So that was an awesome tip, Tanya. Robert, what about you? What bubbles up for you when you think of a company that is kind of like, yeah, that's the kind of company that we should all be shooting for when it comes to diversity, equality, that sort of thing?
Sure. I can't really think of one single company that comes to mind, but I think it's interesting when I'll be attending a gay pride event, and typically there's a parade, and you'll see sponsors and you'll see floats go by. And I just remember last year here in Seattle when I was attending the gay pride parade, which seemed to go on forever. But I think it's like 3 hours. I'm like, oh my God, my pride is worn out. But you would see, T-Mobile go by, and all of the employees wearing their pink T-Mobile shirts, and then there was Xbox, and then it was Alaska Airlines, and then it was the banks, and this bank and that bank. and it was great to see these companies. I'm going to say embracing the LGBT community. And there's a point where there's embracing and there's pandering. So it's kind of from the outside. It's more than just being a parade and we want your business. Of course you do. Every minority, every represents a great deal of dollars for these companies. So there's a difference between appealing to and pandering to. So and I'll see these parades, I'll see these floats go by, but I'm also looking at the diversity of the members that are representing those companies in the parade. So I just think of when I'm at a Pride event, I'm seeing all of these brands go by and they're reaching out to the LGBT community. But then again, when I see, in addition to them being in a parade, but when I see their ads online, targeted to LGBT community, or if I see that they're then contributing to causes that are near and dear to the LGBT community. So that's where it's kind of like when I see all these different pieces come together, that's when I get a better idea of what their true, true at the core feeling is as far as reaching out to the community.
I think pandering is something that we've all witnessed when somebody does want a certain group of people's money. And so you have to look a little bit deeper to see, are they really legitimate? Do they really support this group of people by hiring them? Are these people in their boardroom? Are these people part of their leadership? And so that was such an excellent example. Wow, you guys are so smart. Thank you.
And you have to do that in elections too. That pandering. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay. Are we starting to get to politics now? Because that's part of this.
I just wanted to put that out there. The pandering
political affiliation. Political affiliation, I think, is also somewhere in the diverse background. I have a client who is so opposite of our belief system at superinterns.com. And it was very, very challenging when we first started working with them. They have two legs of their business. One leg is about business, and I could totally get behind that because they are a media company and they're very interested in entrepreneurs. And so I could totally get behind that. But the other leg of the business is very conservative. I'd say even maybe right-wing, libertarian politics, which there's nothing wrong with that. So nobody, start throwing me shade. There's nothing wrong with that. Just different from where I am in my life and where our business is probably, not in alignment so much with conservative thought processes. But at any rate, I said to this client, we would be happy to work with this leg of your business. And if the other leg, get some of our goodness from it, that's wonderful. And what I've actually discovered is that I've learned a lot from this particular client. And some of the perspectives that I've had have actually changed. And then there's some other things that I haven't changed at all. But it's been an interesting exchange to have this influence in my life. And I have to say that I do believe that our company is better for it. So anyway, let's get into money now, because we know that money is what everybody wants to know about. And if you haven't been sold on diversity yet and why your company should do it by now, here's the kicker. And I would love for Caroline to put up the link, which is about the top 10 economic facts of diversity in the workplace. And diverse companies have proven over and over and over again, there's been enough studies done now that we know that they are more profitable. So, and let me read this, because again, I'm, not always know enough, so I have to copy and paste some of my ideas. But here's something that I read. Diversity in business ownership, particularly among women of color, is key to moving our economy forward. And here's why. Women of color own 1.9 million firms. I had no idea. And these businesses generate $165 billion in revenue annually and employ 1.2 million people. Latina-owned businesses, which I'm in that category, I'm a quarter Latina. So I'm just usually, I call it from the waist, like my right side, my right quarter, I call that my Latina quarter. Particularly have total receipts of $55.7 billion since 2012 or 2002. And now, Robert, you have an astronomical number. You mentioned the 70 billion on the LGBT community, but is that just with travel or is that total?
No, that's travel.
And so what is it for the total LGBT community? What is it, like 680?
I know that's a great question. I'm not sure.
Can you go get that book that I let you borrow?
Well, hold on.
Do you know where that is?
It's probably in that stack of stuff back there.
Okay, don't go do that then. Don't go do that. The show will be over by that time.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge number. And so when you think about that, like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of or have that part in your business integrated? It's just enormous. So, Tanya, what are your thoughts about this economic boon, this mind-blowing? We got mind blown from Jamie Severance, which is, yeah, totally crazy. What do you think about that, Tanya?
I am astonished by the numbers. I want to be in those numbers.
Me too.
You know, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, though, when I think about it, because really the foundation of this country is small businesses. I mean, we talk about the big business, but it's the mom and pops. It's the corner stores. It doesn't seem that way a lot because what's on the news and, you know, we got big box stores everywhere. But really, when you're driving through the neighborhoods, looking through the telephone book, looking at, you know, the dry cleaners that you go to and all that, these are businesses, each and every one of them. And there is that diversity to be had that all over. And we're just now really coming into where we figured out how to get through the system and get business loans or get funding and get those types of things that weren't made available to us for so long. So now you're able to start seeing that. And so let's just hope those numbers get a lot bigger, because that sounds like a lot, but I would imagine, what does it look like for, say, a white men, you know, and then it's like, wow. So it's progress, and it's good. And certainly I think there's more to be had. So let's go get it.
Well, yes. And I'm wondering, you know, especially because you're so interested in people with disabilities. And by the way, your son, I have to, you know, give this full disclosure. Tanya's son, Evan, is one of our Blab I Am publicists. And, you know, he works from his room. And he is just an amazing young man, totally together.
Yeah.
Super polite. He's a kind person. You know, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?
Thank you. Yeah.
You've done a great job with him.
Yeah. He's definitely my inspiration. He you know, he keeps it going. So, you know, someone like that should be and could be hired and would be a great addition to any workforce. And so it would be a shame if people didn't look past his disability or his color or anything to get him a job. Plus, you know, I want him to get a job. So
Absolutely. Well,
mothers always want their kids working.
You don't want him sticking around until 35.
Right.
Playing video games. No. So, well, we've got a question here. I think it's a really good one. How does one start a diversity program within their company? Tanya, why don't you take the lead on that? Because you're talking about affinity programs and that sort of thing. And, you know, maybe some of our audience doesn't even know what that is.
Yeah, sure. So affinity groups are just what we're talking about, is where people with a common interest come together to support one another. And usually it's around because you're in a company, so it's around professional development. It's around having that support. So knowing how to navigate the system, having critical mass to maybe push an issue or something forward. So a lot of companies now have an African American network, an LGBTA, a women's network. I think those three are the top three that you would see nowadays. You'd also see Veterans Network is hot. And now what I'm pushing forward is People with Disabilities Network, which we started at GE, and there are other companies. That's probably one of the very much newer ones. And how to get them started is you find a few like-minded people, and you tend to go to, so I was in it because of Evan, and I was speaking, an HR rep, her fiance was a paraplegic. And then we were talking to another lady who had vision impairment, and we said, you know what, we've all got similar, well, though different things. I'm an ally. I'm not disabled, but I'm an ally of someone who is. And so, and you and your husband, but you actually have one. And it doesn't matter what the disability is. It doesn't matter what the issue, but you can find a commonality. So if you find a few like-minded people and find that your biz has a need, then I would say you talk to HR, or if you can find an executive or a manager to talk to about your idea. If you have a chief diversity officer or someone who's over that, you would go talk to them. And anyone, if any company is really talking about diversity and you come with that, they'll be open-minded. Now, the road to that, and making sure you have enough people that are really interested to give resources to, because then you're going to want a budget and you want to have events and stuff. But really just start there, HR, diversity office, managers, and start talking and making it happen. Meet in the cafeteria as a group, and then it gets bigger and bigger, grassroots even.
Great information. We've got another question, but we also have a comment here from Jamie, which I think is the comment, Tanya, to your answer. And he's saying light networking, can that be an affinity group? And the reason, if I can just divulge for a minute, Jamie is on the superinterns.com team. He is one of our senior product developers. And Jamie is one of the most prolific writers I've ever met. Now, Jamie he was also in a car accident, Tanya, like your son.
Okay.
And Jamie was in a coma for quite a while. He was in the hospital. He has a traumatic brain injury. He's got some short-term memory loss, and he has some other challenges, but he's overcome many of them, because I'm always astonished at how much writing this kid can get done. And so I think, Jamie is probably asking for himself, how can he get together and maybe be part of something like this in a company?
Yeah, certainly he can do just a lot of them already have companies. I don't know that networking itself would be considered an affinity group. It could be, you can make an employee group or a club. Affinity groups tend to veer towards what you would say, some minority groups. So, yep. but for Jamie, he could be he could do a people with disability network, and again, just like me and other people, then you could network with people there, or any of them. They're all open to everyone. It's just that they tend to focus on whatever the title is. Right.
Okay. Excellent. Robert, why don't you take the next question? Because we've got another one, and it says, for interviewing, is it better to call out one transgender reassignment ahead of time, or is it better to get the job and then bring it up to the company's HR or supervisor? That's a perfect one for you, because that's part of your community. So I'm going to let you have at it, Robert.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually have Tanya help me on this one, since, I have an HR department. My experience, my experience on the bigger corporate side has been kind of limited, even though I have worked for, Federated Department Stores and big restaurant chains, etc. I know, and I've worked with HR, and I know HR is is very set. They go by certain rules, very stringent guidelines. I admire HR people since they have to be so organized, and there's so many different regulations that they're trying to abide by. Perhaps Tanya, you could help on this. From a perspective, how would they typically approach this?
I would, for interviewing, you don't have to call it out at all. And they would not. I would imagine they should not be able to ask. Like HR, we can't ask in interviewing your age, your if you're pregnant. There are just certain things that lend themselves to a bias. So it shouldn't even be a part of it. You're interviewing for your capabilities. So I would say, no, you don't even talk about it in the interview. You get the job. And if it comes up later where you need to talk about it or self-identify, that's really what we're trying to get for our LGBTA and people with disability. That's a community that doesn't like to self-identify. If you have a mental illness or, anything, people just don't want to self-identify. So you can come into the company without them knowing. You get hired on your ability. And if you want to identify later, then have at it.
What if you are at a halfway point? So what if you're kind of in the place of, like, let's say I'm a woman and I'm transitioning to become a man, and I'm working my way there, and I'm maybe dressing as a man, and I'm starting to prepare for surgery or that sort of thing, but my resume still says Julie on it, but I want to turn into Justin. Does it make sense in some situations to just come out and say, I know, I don't want this to be a problem, and I want you to know where I am, and this is what my plans are. And if anything, I hope that you see my diversity as being an asset to your team. Would that potentially be another thing that to be considered? What do you think about that, Tanya?
By the company, or you're saying as the person interviewing? As
the person.
Well,
because I think the question is really the person who's asking is asking as a career seeker.
Yeah, I think it's just people would want to say that, would want to put it out there and be open. I have interviewed for roles when I was pregnant. Do I tell them I'm pregnant because they might not want to hire me because I know I'm gonna be out on maternity leave, or they think I'm gonna be leave work all the time to go to my kids' plays. Mm-hmm. So it is a personal question. I would say if there's practical things like you're going to be out for a long time, if you get the job and then you're going to have to leave and be off because of recovery from your surgery in 3 months or whatever for a long time, then you may want to say, hey, I've got some major things going on, but I don't think you need to. And I think that's fine coming in.
Yeah.
You just go in as you and as with your capabilities and get the job. That's what they're hiring you for, not your gender or your transition.
I like it a lot. I think if it's not obvious, go in there, get the job. If it is obvious, talk about it.
Right.
And Jamie is saying, this is again, great commentary from Jamie here saying, I tend to be forthright about disclosing that I have a disability to employers. In the interviews I've conducted, employers generally appreciate the honesty. Well, Jamie, I fell in love with you. Sorry, Jamie, I'm just going to say it. Fell in love with you the first time we met because we went right into it. And I've really, as I've gotten to know you and your capabilities, I'm really glad that you were so forthright with me because it really helped me kind of better understand what my challenges as an employer was going to be. And I have to say, they've been almost nothing. So it's been very easy to work with you, Jamie. All right. Do we have any more questions? I think probably not. We're coming to the end, and I probably should button this up because we're at the hour. So let me just get into the closing. So business owners and for-purpose organizations, what are you going to do to increase the diversity in your own company? And so really start thinking about that. And if you don't know where to start, here's my offer tonight. Schedule a 30-minute meeting with me, and I'm going to give you the skinny on how virtual interns are going to immediately get diversity and creativity into your company. I will talk to you about that in 30 minutes. I'm going to give you a ton of ideas. And Caroline, thank you for putting up my online scheduler. You can schedule time with me, please do. And Tanya and Robert, any last thoughts? Tanya, let's do you first, ladies first.
Okay. I just thank you for having me. And I just want to encourage everyone to, continue to push and flourish diversity out there. Look at yourself, look inward when you come into situations, and make sure that you're always a part of the solution and not part of the problem, because sometimes we just don't even pay attention, and just keep doing great. Thanks.
Awesome. And Robert, last words from you?
Yeah, actually, my last words is actually, I want to bring up a word that Tanya had used, and that is ally. So, whatever program you might be wanting to put together, what affinity program you might want to put together or group, know that there are allies out there. There are allies within each company. Seek out those allies. There are open-minded individuals that want to see everyone succeed. So seek out those allies. They're amongst us everywhere, and within those companies that you're either a part of or looking to be a part of.
Well, thank you, Robert, because when you talk about an ally, I know I'm an ally of your community. And you too, Tanya, I really appreciate both of you and what you've brought to the table today to kind of talk about this conversation. So thank you so much. And everybody, just to let you know, we're going to do a show next week. It'll be same time, same place. And the topic is going to be for career seekers and interns who are looking to get a job. And here's the topic title: How to Kill It Your First Week on the Job. We're going to be telling you how to create a plan. So your first week on the job, you're going to blow everyone away. And it's going to set the stage for promotions, raises, whatever your heart's desire. It's really going to help you. And you can subscribe now. Caroline's putting up the link right now. So subscribe to next week's show right away. And I'm signing off from superinterns.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a super day.